Hey everybody, George Adair here, on air with George Adair, Small Bites Edition. I've got my friend Josh Sterling here. This is our second video of a two-part series talking about the 5 Ds and how they pertain to buy-sell agreements for you business owners. Again, if you missed the first one, Josh, tell our listeners a little more about yourself as an advisor and what you do to help business owners.
Yeah, Josh Sterling here, partner and wealth strategist at Camus Advice. We work with high net worth individuals, small business owners, as well as large estates, helping them grow, protect, and transfer their wealth. And I'm talking to you today as a certified exit planning advisor, which is a designation that I hold.
I love it. You know, when you and I first met about what you do, I had never heard of a certified exit planning advisor. And I find that that is such a critical part of running a business because as I learned from you, 50% of all people or businesses will experience one of the 5 Ds, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And those Ds, of course, are disability, divorce, disagreement, distress, and death. It's very obvious. We all know what those words mean, but
Yeah.
none of us as business owners, it feels like, are really adequately prepared for all of them. We previously had talked, and if you want to go back to the first session, we previously talked about death and disability kind of categorically. There can be similar, but let's talk about divorce, disagreement, and distress. Tell me about how those play into a buy-sell agreement for a business owner.
Yeah, so let's start with the divorce. Often we don't see this as part of a buy-sell agreement, and so we see business owners. Unfortunately, business owners get divorced. Matter of fact, 10% more likely to get divorced if you're a small business owner. So it's important to plan.
Stresses, yeah,
The stresses. So it's important to plan for this.
yeah.
But of course, if husband and wife become divorced, and let's say the wife is the business owner, husband is now a partner, if that person cannot be bought out. And so we need to have mechanisms that say, hey, if a divorce happens, we won't be partners with the other spouse. And then how do we buy them out?
Right.
And because it could be all the assets that person has, and the only way to buy them out is from money from the business. So
and there's no insurance for such a thing, really, right?
No.
It's got to be negotiated.
Yep. So we got to put that together. We have to have an agreement on how it is going to all operate. And
well, here's a spin on that. What if, which is very common, mom and pa shops, right? They call them that for a reason. What if you have two spouses that run and operate the business together? Should they have a buy-sell agreement between each other? And how do you go about that? It feels a little awkward.
Yeah, I think it's important that they do have a buy-sell agreement. I mean, listen, regardless of who we start a business with, when we start the business, everything's peachy and awesome. No different when we first get married, everything's peachy and awesome. So to have a plan put together, like, hey, if we were to, and it sort of ties into the divorce. If we were to get divorced, or one of us wanted to leave the business, typically,
how does that look?
How does it look, and what is the mechanism to buy out the other person?
Well, I think it's important because often, there's people that are on their second or even third marriage, right? They've already been through this, and they might already have a separate estate. I see it a lot in mortgage lending, where we have people that come together with their own assets, and then maybe they start a business together. And now what happens when they dissolve? And what happens to the estate, right? So having a trust is also important for people with estates.
Or a lot of times a prenuptial or even a postnuptial agreement when we're dealing with, second or third marriages. But even first marriages, if I'm a sole owner of the business and my spouse is not part of the business, I want to make sure that, protecting my partners, and my partners want me to have probably some form of prenup or postnuptial as well. And that's the legal side of all this.
And I think everything you just said kind of plays into a partner. I don't think we need to dive into the disagreement D, right? Because the separation of partners, the separation of spouses, I mean, essentially is disagreement. So they kind of
I do want to add to that, George.
Yeah, please do.
I think the disagreement part's important because you and I are 50-50 owners, right? Of a company together, and we disagree.
Yeah. What happens?
What happens? There's no third person. So you need to have, again, this is part of all of the agreements that we put together, is we have to, maybe it's a key person that breaks the tie. Maybe it's always you that gets the final say in certain matters, the finance matters. Maybe I get the final say in sales. That has to be outlined, because then if not, the disagreements get so bad, and now we're talking about going into distress, because now our another one of the D's, right? Now all of a sudden the business isn't doing very well because you and I don't like each other, because we can't come to some agreement. So all of this communication plans, having everything outlined, and just really sitting down like with someone like myself and just having a discussion, because a lot of people don't think about these things. When do they think about them, do you think? When they
After it's already happened, right?
So
Or if
like,
you're not here, now you've left your spouse, if you've passed away and the death
totally.
D has plagued your business, you're really screwed. Let's face it. And I
Yep.
like to tell people as we wind down here that agreements are there to help you figure out how to resolve matters and issues before they become legally, distressing,
Correct.
legally binding problems in courts and lawsuits get involved. It's much better to have agreements up front and in place.
Well, it's best to it's best to set them, right? When do we want to have an agreement? When you and I still like each other.
Yeah, right. It makes it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and I think using the right advisor like yourself, Josh Sterling, thank you so much for helping. We're going to put your information up here, and people, you give Josh a call or send him an email, and we're going to have him back again. Josh, thanks so much for joining me on air with George Adair.
Great. Thanks, George.